Without garnering much attention, Santos were the stars of the last stage of the BR6. In addition to winning against lofty opponents such as NIP, Santos also achieved an unprecedented goal for the team thus far, winning 2 matches in a row. It is reasonable then to assume that the team's confidence is high. However, it's also important to remember that last stage, FURIA had no difficulty beating Santos.
A gente veio meio mal preparado para esse jogo contra a FURIA no consulado. A gente estava com uma cabeça errada. A gente tinha acabado de vir numa vitória contra a Liquid, não soube lidar com o mesmo psicológico que a gente tinha que dar com eles. Então, acredito que foi um aprendizado para a gente poder enfrentar eles agora no terceiro split.
Nosso jogo contra Santos foi um jogo muito bom da nossa parte. A gente entrou forte, entramos firme no jogo, não deu muito espaço para eles jogarem. Eles conseguiram fazer um round ou outro nos vacilos nossos ali, mas a gente conseguiu adaptar e conseguiu sair com a vitória.
FURIA are coming in hot. In their only match of the BR6 so far, they got the better of world champions Team 1. In fact, having played 1 match less than the others so far, if they win in regulation today, FURIA can end the day in 3rd position, depending on the performance of NIP. Utilizing Twister's strategic mind is critical for FURIA today.
Eles também é outro time que vem de mudança, né? Então eles estão tendo que passar por adaptação e é a mesma pegada. A gente vai vir firme e vamos sair com os 3 pontos.
Acredito que vai ser um jogo pegado. Acredito que também a gente possa até surpreender caso a gente consiga fazer o que a gente realmente quer. A gente planeja um jogo legal contra eles.
A meeting of winners, a duel of the reformed. Will FURIA continue their momentum, or will they be the next victim of Santos' new lineup? Find out in this next match between FURIA and Santos Esports.
From Santos, SDK, they're mentioning the fact that last time they maybe underestimated FURIA. I'm intrigued to see exactly how things are going to unfold this time around, whether they're going to make the same mistake again. Demo, I believe we've got you here. We are having a couple technical issues right now, which is why we don't have Ollie there as well. Oh, he's back apparently. So Demo, let me ask you, do you think that Santos are going to make the same mistake again, or are they fully prepared coming into this match after what happened last time?
Question. Very good question about Santos. They're a team that you expect to be bottom of the pack, that should, you know, really go into some of these big games and just get steamrolled. I think that's always the assumption whenever you go. You know, I look at LATAM, I think of 6 world-class sides that they have. Those are the sides that should go in and beat teams like Santos and just knock them out of the park, get their 3 points and walk away. But Santos have kind of changed that curve. Santos have shown us that they are not scared of anyone. They play with no fear whatsoever. We've seen so many times in Siege history where a team where they have, in their minds, they have nothing to lose. They play incredible Siege, and I think Santos are doing that week in, week out right now against some of the big teams. The teams that they're supposed to lose against, they don't care. They'll go in, and they'll just play their Siege and they win.
Absolutely. I mean, Ollie, I've got to ask you, is it just confidence that's coming in from Santos, or have they maybe switched up their game plan from last stage? Do you think there's anything major there they've switched up? Or is it just, look, there's no pressure on us going against these top teams?
I think Santos are, you know, obviously putting the work in behind the scenes. They've had an acquisition, should I say, this season or this stage in the form of MGN coming to replace Destiny. So, you know, they're bringing a little bit of fresh blood inside of that team, and that can always bring a little bit more confidence. It can bring some more enthusiasm, and especially to come out there in your first week and get a couple of good results. That's really then going to sort of power them on through. And we've known for some time that Santos can be a team of gunners. You know, STK really shone last week. He outclassed over on Oregon. And I think that's just something that maybe goes flies a little bit under the radar in sort of other games where maybe, you know, they just don't see that fortune. Every player has a bad game, but when they're on the game, they really are a team to be feared.
Absolutely, they are. I gotta ask you, Demo, coming into this, look, we've seen a little bit out of both these teams, but we really haven't had chance to analyze the full playbook of the teams. We don't know exactly how they're gonna play coming into stage 3. There's a lot of unknown factors until we get probably a couple of weeks in. When we take a look over at the map vetoes here, which will be coming up in a second, where are you expecting us to end up? Do you think that we are just going to see a standard pick from one of these teams? Or do you think that, you know, Banks in the pool, it might end up getting played at some point tonight?
I think LATAM have a great range of maps. The only map that I think LATAM stay away from is Cafe. Everything else, they'll play it. So I'm expecting to see Cafe be banned by either one of the sides. I think that's going to be a bit of a guarantee. FURIA going for the coastline ban, which is interesting in its own right. FURIA, very, very solid little side on coastline. So to see them ban that out, maybe hiding something for themselves later on down the line, perhaps. Cafe still in, so I'm worried, Chunks. I'm still worried, Chunks. I'm still worried!
Okay, saved at the last second. Looks like it's Chalet? Okay, that is not correct, so we're going to try and get that fixed
Two
quickly.
chalets?
The map is banked.
Okay, we are going on to
been
bank.
Yeah.
Okay, we have received word that we're going to end up on bank. Ollie, first time we've seen it played in this stage, am I correct in thinking?
Yep, certainly is. We didn't see it last week. Bank, of course, being the newest map into the competitive pool, it replaced Consulate. I know there's a lot of people sad about that, especially here in the BR6, because it was a very popular map, and it's been a popular map elsewhere as well. But it is now gone, and we are left with Bank. Bank has seen a bit of a rework, and as such, it is now back inside of the competitive pool. So it'd be nice to see how this throws in. We obviously had changes come into Coastline as well. We saw that play out quite a couple of times last week. So there's a couple of maps that have been reworked, a couple of maps that now these teams are sort of going, yep, we'll have a look at that, and we'll see just how well prepared we can be for it. Obviously, FURIA being the ones there to make that final decision. It would lend itself. You would believe, I guess, that FURIA have put a lot of work in, sufficient enough that they're happy enough to go to this map.
Yeah, I'm always excited. Obviously, you said that Consulate's out of it. It's always exciting to see a map that we get to see pretty often be taken out of the pool, because then it throws up a lot of question marks as to where teams are going to end up. Look, Demo, we've had the changes to Bank. Any major changes that someone who hasn't played R6 in a while should know about here going into it? Because I think having those changes could really affect the matchup. You can answer that once you get into the game, though, because I believe that we are underway. We're getting over to Bank for game number 1 of the evening. So once again, Ollie, Demo, take it away.
Thank you very much, Chunks. We are going to be getting underway now with map number 1 here tonight. Demo, I just want a little bit of acknowledgement. I need a little bit of a pat on the back here. I feel like I did really well in that pre-game not to hype up FURIA too much.
Is that a personal achievement? Is that what you've set yourself out for the week?
I'd written reams on those guys, and I was like, no, I'm gonna turn it back. We don't know what we're getting going into this.
Yep.
I think it's a good thing. I think it's progress.
If you don't want to be biased to FURIA, I'll be it, because I think FURIA will come in here and they'll put on a good performance. I do. I think FURIA, showing what they did last week, looked great. Just carried on that success from Mexico. FURIA, I think, can make a push for top 4 this season. Oh, 100%.
Wholeheartedly agree. I mean, High's a miracle. They were number 2 and 3 in the ratings based off last week's games. So to have 2 players inside of that top 5, I mean, that's NIP sort of stuff. That's the that you expect to see the NIP boys inside of that, top 10, and you usually expect to see 3 or even 4 of them in there. So really making a bit of a name for themselves here. As we move into Bank, you'll notice that we've got a couple of bands up and ready. Hibana, Thatcher, Valkyrie, and a Pulse. So a lot of pressure on the Nitro cells, a lot of pressure on that information game. I mean, Valkyrie and Pulse, 2 great operators for this map.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be able to walk everyone through just some of the changes that happened to Bank. Hasn't been all too much. Hasn't been a crazy, massive rework from what we've seen like other maps. For example, Theme Park, I think whenever that was at it in the comp pool, it changed, drastically in terms of how everyone played it. Bank hasn't changed all too often. It is fairly stayed the same in terms of how you attack still. A couple of changes here or there, which we'll dive into. Bans. Hibana ban is massive. From what I hear is being able to eliminate one hard breach, especially one that's as handy of getting hatches, is going to be a great thing. Keep in mind, this bottom floor, it still has 5 hatches that you need to try and open up. So Hibana is going to be the great operator for that. Teams then obviously are going to go for the bans to try and disorientate the attackers and make them work even more harder for it. And obviously FURIA being the defense, they have a better time, and hopefully they can rack up some early rounds ahead of that. So what we've got changed, Ollie, for this is mostly near the kind of elevator and vault area. They've changed the placement of the hatches now. The vault hatch, it's moved into lobby more, and it drops directly into, like, the vault. It's not in towards, like, the little bar area, towards, like, the actual safe entrance. Elevator is much bigger now, so it's not just a single death drop anymore. You actually have a bit of space to work with. Still not the greatest area to drop, but a lot better than what it was. And other than that, it's still fairly all about taking control of server, in towards open area, getting hatches open, and finally making your way down into CCTV and trying to go for that plant. So it hasn't changed all too much on the bottom floor.
Let's see how Santos choose to approach this. One of the things that we regularly used to discuss, and it is a valid talking point still, is just how big Bank is and how difficult it can be as an attacker to really get a keen foothold into the map. There's a lot of work that you've got to do in terms of clearing out any sort of roam game or anybody that could be lurking on that top floor. Now, that isn't really a factor here, as FURIA have opted to really stack the site and haven't gone for any too much of an extension upstairs. But still, it's all time that Santos do need to spend. However, they've made good progress, and they've already got themselves into open area. Hatches have started to be open as well. Miracle going to be playing the top of blue with the shotgun at close range. Got a couple of ADSs. It's a very tried and true way of holding onto this top stairs. Hatch being electroclawed below him as well. The information now has been gathered, but he's still a difficult nut to crack in there.
Yeah, I am happy to see Santos also bringing the Zero into the limelight and Bank. Great operator for this map. A lot of staircases. Obviously kind of plays like what we've seen with Nomad in the past. But it gives you more live info. It gives you that quick grab where you can call out to your teammate rather than maybe relying on a Nomad, which you don't really know, is that going to be hit? Maybe there's a guy lurking, they could impact the Nomad. Anything could happen with an air jab. We just don't know. Where Zero comes, it's going to be quick, it's going to be clean to get the information. And also Zero has the hard breach gadget, which is a bit of a necessity now that we're dealing with a Habana ban. You need another form of hard breach, and you can't really commit to taking a Thermite because you need utility from Zero. So that's where I think Zero is going to be a great pickup with a hard breach gadget.
Opening kill coming in there as Cons is going to be the first player to fall. STK gets a chance at Miracle, but just puts in a couple of warning shots and actually allows Miracle a full opportunity to rotate on out. Now, with only 20 seconds left, this is looking pretty dire here for Santos. They need to try and make a headway into the site, but it's honestly going to be very difficult from here on in. The positions now that are being held as Rise is going to push his way down. Highs picks him up. Lender grabs one as well as the kills continue to flood. STK has made his way back in through server, but alas, he will be met by nobody. FURIA knowing there that they do not need to challenge. They had a good handle on everything that was going on there, and poor old Santos just running short of time.
Santos, not the greatest of attacks. Very, very easy for FURIA. Didn't look under any pressure at all during that round, Ollie. I think Santos struggled heavily with the Kite charges that are lurking on the hatches. With Thatcher being banned out, Kite is going to be a great pickup. So it forces the attackers into the Maverick pick. And unfortunately for Santos, they lost their Maverick before he could open up a hatch fully. So I think that's where they got costed there, Ollie, is the Maverick trying to go for the opening, and he got peeked from the hatch and he died.
Yeah, at that point, I think it just really slows the attack down to a very, I don't know, a very lackluster crawl, I guess. As there wasn't really too much that Santos were able to do there. And, you know, even though they were able to clear out the roam game very quickly, there's still such a heavy utility exchange that needs to go down here.
Yeah, there wasn't even a roam game. Like,
that's what I mean.
Just set up. They gave them site control, or they gave them top floor control so easily, and it's strange because FURIA, they could be in, have everything cleared, have all of the stairs covered by what, 30 seconds, and they have 2 minutes 30 just to do an attack on basement. It's strange. All that time.
You got to kind of bring into question the Thatcher ban as well. You know, it's something that we all rag on from time to time, but here on Bank, it just puts so much pressure onto your Maverick because a lot of the hatches are going to be very difficult to get open with any other means. And for Santos to remove that Thatcher, you just got to ask yourself the question, you're attacking first, is it really worth it? You know, is it worth making your attacks that much more difficult? I mean, that isn't helping anybody. STK, you get sat down straight off the rip, 30 seconds, if that, of the round gone, and already the ace has fallen.
Ace gone. STK maybe had some information from his teammates, thinking that they could take into tellers and archives very, very quickly, but nope. We had Rare waiting for him. That's a great start, by all means, from FURIA, finding the opening pick. The big hard breacher is gone. Not as if it's... I don't think it's too needed, really, for this bomb site. This bomb site kind of revolves around hatches, or, well, at least it used to, Ollie. If anyone doesn't know, the massive open area hatch that used to be in the middle of open area, that you can basically see one of the players from Santos is standing on right now, MGN, it's gone. It's not there anymore. So this opens up open area to be a lot more of a favorable bomb site for defenders now. So massive change coming in. Not really sure what direction Santos are going to go for. They have the upstairs pressure. There is still some damage they can do to perhaps the Janner's hatch. If they open that up, it gives them a drop into office. And then they can maybe work around seeing if they can push into kitchen, push into open area, whichever they want to go from. But from what I've kind of seen of Bank so far, a lot of it kind of stems on pushing in from the elevator side of things, so trying to take in towards the main double door and open area.
You can see that losing the hard breach earlier has just slowed Santos down again, as well into the final minute now. They're going to start crouch walking down main stairs, led by Cons, of course, playing on that Maverick. He hasn't had the opportunity to open any of the other hatches, or has chosen not to. Kill comes back as a trade, though. MGM finds the scoreboard, and he's going to take down Rare. So that's going to be potentially a C4 gone, although I do believe that Rare already used it. Still a couple left in the hands of Fancy and Highs, but kills continuing to come in here for Santos. Now a little bit more pressure, as we do have a split defender. Fancy is going to be at the top of blue stairs. He's trying to hold on to that double door into cafeteria, and well, he's getting forced out of the action now, and all this means that the pressure is going to be onto Miracle. Fantasy attempts the rotation. Miracle lands his shots, takes down Cons, but can't find the second. Does find the second in the form of the trade. The diffuser has been recovered. Wow. Fantasy, he grabs one onto Rise, and Hunter is having to desperately get the plant down, but he is on information. Fantasy tests the crouch key before picking up that final kill.
The VM is strong with this one. Yeah, I mean, very, very well done by FURIA. Didn't look good for them for a big portion of that round, Ollie. It was a bit of a roller coaster. Didn't look good for Santos, losing the hard breach early on. We're kind of lingering towards the top floor for a very long time. But Santos, I think they kind of pinpointed what they wanted to go for, and that was the elevator hallway. I think they done great at winning their gunfights. You know, winning the gunfights onto the Mozzie on the main stairs was a great pick. That opened up the site, and then they could walk in towards open area. Things were looking really good for them. But everyone else who was kind of pushing in towards kitchen, we've seen 2 players towards kitchen, they didn't win their gunfight against the Maestro. That was the issue. It should have been a quick trade. Sure, Maestro gets one, but there should have been an immediate trade. Yes, they did kill the Maestro in the end, but he still managed to get that 1v1 trade. That was the issue. It was the other side, the other kind of squad. It couldn't do their job, and then from there, the Maestro cams, the information just flooded in, Ollie. It was so easy at that stage for FURIA just to clean up house.
I mean, it's a round that FURIA really oughtn't have won. You know, a 2 versus 4 like that, it's never looking favourable, especially the position that Fancy was in. He wasn't in a position to really affect onto the site, but he was given that opportunity to make the rotation. He wasn't held sufficiently, and he's just gone out and won a couple of really important gunfights there. And that's the really big problem there for Santos. There was so much that hinged just off the fact of a sort of a double door push. And again, it comes down to the fact that they lose ace in the first 30 seconds of the round. And as important or not as it is for that site, it would have just given him a little bit of alternate pressure, and the Maestro would have had more than just one angle to point that Alder on. And you know, go for the spray and pray. I mean, a 1-for-1 trade isn't repeatable, but, you know, Fortune has obviously favoured FURIA inside of that round. And Santos still looking a little bit downtrodden. They now have an opportunity to attack into somewhere else. They're going to be attacking into Tellers and Archives.
Yep, Tellers Archives coming up next, and you see a very heavy top floor hold from FURIA. That's no surprise. Vertical game is still as strong as ever. This is a bomb site, Ollie, that just really hasn't changed at all. It still plays out the exact same way. If attackers get into CEO office, in towards the top floor, the vertical game is so strong. You can open up every nook and cranny that you can find on the bomb site. So yeah, taking above is going to be a big priority, I think, for Santos. But as expected, FURIA will try and put up a little bit of competition against them. They have the mirror window set up inside a long desk, looking in towards Janners, looking in towards the corridor, in towards stock. So they have a good setup above. I think lobby is the issue that FURIA might run into, and as I say that, Hunter is stuck up the spiral stairs and found that first pick for Santos.
Hunt's had a pretty good game so far. He's found a couple of really impactful kills, but they do get responded to. Fancy picks up one as the trade comes in onto MGN as well, and it gives FURIA the advantage here once again. Still a top floor to try and deal with. And plenty of utility being played in here as well. Fancy has options. He's got multiple angles to check, but with the hatch being open, he should be able to get himself out fairly safely, provided that he is aware and ready for the gunfight. He eventually will drop. Fortunate timing there for him, as he did get chunked down pretty severely. Now the top floor control has been gained. And Santos, they've got 40 seconds to try and make something of that. What a kill over onto Cons as he just flies on down. Fantasy hits him with the headshot, takes him out of action. Little bit too aggressive there from the side of Santos. And again, time to get these drones working, but it could all be a little bit too little, too late, especially with the way that Fancy's hitting his shots. Got to find the fourth, does eventually get taken on down, but STK has a large way to go. Miracle with the shoulder cover. He's going to find that final kill. There are a couple of Zed pings there, giving him some assistance. What a round there.
Mozzie, that Roni. Deadly combination, Ollie. There has been a bit of an outcry for a bit of a removal of the 1.x5, but I mean, I think Mozzie would still be a biggest threat as ever, Ollie, even if that was the case. So I think Mozzie always going to be that great fragging operator that we see teams just pop off. Ollie, I've seen that you mentioned that they got the upstairs control around a minute to go, and then that's where they could start initiating their push and start carrying out the attack. But they lost their buck. You know, what's the point of these guys going for their upstairs hold if they're losing one of the keys to the puzzle? If you lose that buck, you don't have the vertical game anymore. I think Santos, they could have hit that a lot cleaner than what they did.
I mean, it's kind of the same as round two, right? Where they run in, they lose their ace. STK dies straight away on ace, and it's like it just limits the entire of the round. I don't think that we've seen a round so far from Santos, aside maybe from round number one, where they've actually been able to execute on their sort of plan that they've made at the start of the round. You know, we're attacking into here, we know that we want to do this, and these are the operators that we're going to use to execute that plan. I don't think that we've really been able to see that, and something that, you know, you've got to be able to do inside a siege is adapt when things don't go right. But some of the mistakes that they've been making and some of the ways that they've been getting picked off very early have not really lent themselves to much adaptation. There's not a great deal you can do. Like you say, if you lose your book, if you lose your ace, you're really sort of clutching at straws there, and it's not always possible to bring, you know, redundancy and to bring multiple operators that are going to do a similar job. Obviously, we can get a similar job out of a Zafir as you can a book, but it's stuff like that, you know, fantasy. He's read him like a book.
7-0 right now, Ollie. He's been uncontested this entire game. Santos, really in the hot seat, Ollie. This is not good for them whatsoever. I mean, sure, we can sit here and say that the bans favor a defender-sided, you know, half, but still, you would expect something better than this, Ollie. It just looks as if Santos just haven't been in the game whatsoever so far, which is a surprise considering how they played last week.
It is, and there's a similar argument to make for the defenders, you know, of Valkyrie and a Pulse. It's a lot of information gone. Now, FURIA are not really choosing to bring that info in anywhere else. They've got a Legion, which is going to provide you a little bit of soft information, but they're not even bringing a... Oh, sorry, they've got one bulletproof, excuse me. Highs has actually brought the bulletproof as well, but still, it isn't a great deal of intel. Yet they're still able to go out there and win all these gunfights and just play with that level of confidence. It must be very infuriating for Santos to come up against. They need to try and deal with Miracle here, and they need to try and deal with him as inexpensively as possible. Toxic Babe canister going to cut off access as the hatch will eventually pop open, but Fantasy is going to be playing below. He got the peek on the head, but wasn't able to land the shot. NGM shutting him down there. Miracle going to aggress on through, deals a ton of damage into the Zephyr, and is allowed to continue to play at the top of these blue stairs.
Santos have to eliminate Miracle. He is going to be the man to shut down their entire push, and see Rise Above has the flashbangs to cook them out, but the ADSs are mighty in this scenario. Fires out Toxic Babe to give him just a little bit of cover to fall back to, and Nade also gets tossed out, and this is great for Miracle. If he finds a kill, and he will, he has made a massive, massive play, and another one falls. Miracle on the blue stairs just rips them apart one by one. Hunter, he's been doing not too bad for Santos, but even that is too much for him to handle. FURIA 4-0. And Ollie, it's not a close 4-0. It's a marginal 4-0. It is massive.
It's huge. I mean, that previous round was the first time that Fantasy's died yet. So, and I'm sure that there's a couple of other people on the side of FURIA that have died a very few amount of times over the course of these 4 rounds that we've seen. One smoke on the top of blue stairs, it's one of the oldest tricks in the book. You've got to be able to try and deal with that. You need to coordinate that utility and really be able to push him out of there. And Miracle's just had... I mean, he's ran the show from that exact spot, being able to get a couple of kills. Even the time that he wasted was enough. If you'd have only wasted the time, that would have been enough in that situation, because there are other defenders in the site that are ready to then step into the breach and to defend the site. But he's been able to get kills up there as well. That's when things really start to be questioned.
4-0. And FURIA, they will go to the top floor. Wasn't actually expecting to see them go up here today, just off their first initial rotation. Changes to the top floor. Most of them come in towards the lobby side of things, Ollie, where we have now the kind of lobby windows that, you know, back in the old days of Bank, you'd sit on top of the garage rooftop and you'd simply just snipe anyone using those windows. They're all blocked off now, Ollie, so you don't have to worry about them anymore. So it does kind of force attackers to go for that classic into square stairs, open up the walls, and then try and dig deep and really fight those long angles through the middle of the bomb site. So not too much, again, has changed. That's like the biggest thing I'm trying to get over about Bank, Ollie, for anyone who may be watching, is things haven't really changed from whenever it was in the map pool a couple of years ago.
I think it's small quality of life changes. Like, you know, how many times do you die from the top of the garage when you're just rotating on banana or reinforcing something or just minding your own business, and you get totally just slapped off the game? That's really where a lot of my frustration used to come from playing this map. Yep. So to see that be sort of dealt with is certainly nice. This time we're seeing a little bit more aggression here come in from Santos. Actually, we're going to see Lender. He gets himself taken on out. He does get the down onto MGM, but instead MGM should be able to get picked up here, and that'll be 2 clean kills here for Santos to start things off. Now, Highs is actually returned to those main stairs, and he's able to start picking up a few pieces, but Rise has got himself straight on into sight. Things falling apart here for FURIA, and nobody on the side of Santos has really even pressured that top floor. It's all been on those main stairs.
Yeah, they haven't even attacked the actual bomb site. FURIA went crazy in towards open area, and, well, they've just been picked off. Santos didn't even, like, set up any kind of push, like an actual bomb site execute. It didn't happen. All of this was fought in their own game. FURIA, just a little bit absurd. They just kept throwing people just one after another, and it just didn't work for them.
Certainly an odd approach
Very odd.
Especially given how we saw FURIA play round 1, where they literally just stacked the site. So to now see them go for everybody out there on the roam, maybe a little bit of confidence getting to FURIA there. They're not going to sweat losing one round here, especially with how this game has gone so far. There were a good couple of trades in there, and I think that Lender, if he doesn't get picked off from inside of open area, he possibly has a chance at lessening the damage there that Santos is allowed to cause. But still, a round for Santos is really what they needed at that moment in time. They need a little bit of that confidence, especially before they get themselves onto the defense. We've already discussed how these bans, and I mean the map in general is going to be one where the defense tend to see a little bit of an advantage with a Hibana ban, especially with how many hatches are available here on Bank, and obviously the Thatcher ban as well. It does make things difficult for the attackers. So Santos getting around there, fantastic. If they can pick another one up and come out at a 2-4 split, they may still have a chance here. By no means a said and done deal for FURIA, but they need to show us that, attacking onto the site as well.
FURIA, that one slip, bit of an odd round, but see how they can retaliate as they go to this open area once again. Bit of a strange round. We had an early pick the last time come in for FURIA, and it was onto STK on that ace. Big hard breacher gone. And then Santos did really well to get himself back into the game, but it just was not enough. They couldn't get the trades going. And from there, FURIA had a lot of information on site. I would say about Santos is that their utility usage has not been the greatest this game, Ollie. I think that has to be said. There's been a lot of pieces of utility, a lot of things, you know, not being opened up. You know, they're bringing the buck. I don't think we've really seen any good value from the buck this game yet. Only thing I would say is that the zero cams have been decent, but other than that, not much else.
I think one of the reasons why we've not seen a lot of utility use is because STK gets himself taken out first blood nearly every single round. That's at least 3 that I can remember where STK has found himself getting taken on out. And all before he's been able to use those Selma charges. So again, attacking into this open area site, not having the hard breach that you're opting to bring, it can only damage Santos from here on out. I'm not sure what it is, but FURIA certainly have SDK's number today. Maybe he's just working a little bit too far ahead of the drones, but at least Rise has got himself in this time, and he can start to work that vertical. This is something that we didn't get to see previously when we saw this site, as Rise 2 got himself taken on out, but the Buck can now make use of that skeleton key and to start working these vertical angles and really pressuring in onto site. Someone that is having a pretty standout game is going to be Hunter. Currently matching top frag with MGN on the side of Santos, and he's actually going to be able to take down Fantasy, who since his little flurry a couple of rounds ago hasn't really been able to get into things.
Yeah, a bit surprised that Fantasy gave himself up very easily like that. He knew that a man was inside a Talage. He heard the Banshee charge go off, but just was not aware. Hunter, a great swing, but an even better refrag from Rare, though, will pull it back, and going to be the Teller side of things neutralized for Santos, and they were really relying on Hunter in that position. Look at the positioning of the other 3 players, Ollie, all towards the main stairs. They're going to try and push in towards that double door, quite similar to what they did last time, but without control of Archives and Teller is going to make it very difficult, but Rare gives himself away to Rise, and oh no, that is not what FURIA wanted, because the threat that they had, Santos now know they don't have to fear it.
Miracle going to find a great kill there, and a second as the Aldo lets rip onto the doorway. MGN has to push himself through, picks up Miracle, knows where the diffuser is, but Lender is going to be holding him on the stairs. If he were to pick it up, it would be a very easy come on through from Lender. Running out of time there, you've got to feel for Santos. They did a lot of things right there under the circumstances.
Yeah, Santos just so close again, and they tried to triple up. I thought they had a great opening with Rare just giving that kill over to Santos, but just wasn't enough. That Alda Ollie gathered with the Maestro cams. Once again, the information was the sole reason why FURIA didn't sweat a single drop during those final few seconds. So utility again, they need to eliminate the utility, they need to eliminate the information, because that is what FURIA are really relying on at the moment in those last few seconds.
Well, now the side switch. Furia 5-1 up here on Bank. They get to go onto the attacking side now. Furia also going to opt to bring the Thermite as well as the Ace. Really tripling down on that hard breach. It's semi-unusual to see Rare play anything other than Thermite on the attack. He really does love a bit of good old Thermite. So coupled with the Ace and the Maverick, Furia are going to have plenty of options here to try and get things open. A Cade obviously being brought on Santos, as is going to be expected. And Santos 2 are going to be starting off here downstairs. Always good to see the different approaches that teams take, especially on a map that we're seeing inside of BR6 for the first time since the rework. So it's nice to see how these two different teams differ slightly. And already you can tell that Furia are putting a higher prioritization on that hard breach.
Furia, how will you deal with the attacks? Obviously, they're going to be up against quite a lot of Ollie. They are dealing with a Thatcher ban. They're dealing with a Habana ban, two massive operators for Bank that the attackers would love to have, but unfortunately they can't. This is where Santos really need to dig their heels in, Ollie, and show us why we kind of bid them as to be world beaters. You know, they're beating these big teams left, right, and center. And Furia definitely considered a big team, 100%. This is a matchup that Santos, you know, if we're going off experience and going off, you know, what the stats say, is that they should be doing a much better job against this side than what they're showing us.
Furia coming up against a little bit more opposition here on the roam game, but it looks to be largely clear for now. There's still a couple of key positions that need dealing with, however, and one of those is going to be Rise playing at the top of blue stairs. It was somewhere that Miracle played pretty famously back on Furia's defenses as well. It's a classic place to see a shotgun and a shield played. And that's exactly what Rise is going to be doing with the Hatch Electroclawed behind him. Fancy's job is going to be to remove that Electroclaw. Going to try and get in with the Twitch drone, but it is immediately removed. And Jen is going to be holding fast behind the stack. And therefore, Fancy has to try and rotate a separate drone around. Of course, we could just opt to use the Maverick Blowtorch to open that hatch up, but Highs is going to be otherwise engaged. Furia trying to push in a similar direction as to, you know, really getting things open independently. MGM there getting swung directly by Fanciers. With no Twitch drones left, he has to just instead choose to take the gunfight, then remove the Cade. But still, NGN is happy to play in that position. Rise pushes on through, finds himself one onto Lender. Toxic Babe canister will do the rest in terms of burning out the time. And Furia, they too are finding a lot of trouble here, Demo.
Yeah, it's just so difficult with the Kite on board. No Thatcher to deal with the Maverick. As you said, Ollie before was otherwise engaged with opening up other hatches around the map, and yeah, just that shotgun. When will teams learn, Ollie? You don't push that. You have to try and get the nades in. Sophia stuns everything just for the kitchen sink at him and hope something sticks. STK, Hunter all jump in on the action, and Fancy all by himself will get one kill to pad the stats, but that's really it. Santos play it well. They know what they have at their disposal, using the bans to their advantage, and they will take their first round of defense.
Here's something that I've always thought about this map, Demo, is I really like Bank as a map. I was pretty gutted when it was removed for the first time. And one of the reasons why I like it is because I feel like it forces you to bring things like a Monty. And it forces you to have like really good sort of, and this is, you know, speaking from sort of experience of playing it more than experience of watching it, but I think it forces really good pocket strats because you can bring Monties, you can, you know, force control and force areas to be taken. And I think that's maybe what these two teams are missing just slightly on these attacks so far. is that little bit more of a surefire way of taking map control, because we've seen both teams now struggle with players on blue stairs. It's something, you know, it's as old as the game itself. It's as old as this map that a player is going to sit on those blue stairs with a shotgun, whether it be a smoke and the Toxic Babe canisters, or whether it's an Ella and the FO12. Somebody is going to, whether it's a clash, somebody is going to play there. And you've just got to try and brute force your way through that. And I think that's maybe what both of these two teams have missed so far when attacking into that site.
Yeah. Move upstairs to that top floor bomb site. Interesting pickup from Cons on the clash. I think for this bomb site, probably one of her better site choices, I would say. For top floor, you kind of have to hold the entire top floor. That's how this works. You see teams trying to extend in towards stock, for example, and hold in towards that side, hold in towards that room, and you see MGN kind of lurking over there, and you see a lot of shotgun holes kind of tear apart that wall, and then you can swing from janitor. You have a lot of different options, really, to play at this bomb site, but it usually is more or less the same. Cons is going to give them a good bit of active information, which is going to be probably one of the biggest things that I think Santos they struggled with in the attack, was just positioning of players. Clash, if that's what they're struggling with, maybe communication is what they're struggling with today, Clash is going to be your best friend. It is a walking drone.
I love that yokai in main lobby. Anyone that's wondering, you throw it onto the little half wall that separates the sort of ATM room, the stock room behind main lobby. And you can actually get your yokai up onto the ceiling there, but it just provides so much visibility, and obviously the default cam gets taken out straight away, but that remains. It's always a really good camera to add in if you're going to choose to play a bit of echo here on this site, or even on bank as a whole. But so far, vertical game is being worked. Lender, he's going to be able to rip open a little bit of that floor. In fact, Fancy finds the opening kill over onto Hunter. He's been allowed to play on the window. He's just got a couple of the panels removed out of the barricade and has got himself in on there. He's now been spotted out and called, so he's unlikely to see success from there again. But a lot of damage there has been done.
Santos, once again in the back foot of the position, and almost STK trying his luck, takes a bit of damage, does a bit of damage also to Miracle. That wall's going to be opened up, and there's the clash. STK gets eliminated, a nade from out of nowhere will eliminate him, and now it's going to be all 2 versus 5. One of them's going to be a Clash Ollie, so that's not going to help them out. Clash will find one, but Fantasy will find Rise, and Clash all by herself doesn't have the greatest of weapons to challenge with, and will be eliminated. God, this ace was here pretty much the entire round. Ollie didn't move.
You don't need to. If you're going to be holding that angle on Repel, if you're holding all the way through and you manage to open up the Kanto spot there at the top of the elevator, you can just hold that for the entirety of the round, especially if your team is still operating well inside of the map and they're not losing significant numbers. It's a great cutoff. It's a great rotation to watch. You couple that with Fantasy watching through from the Repel, and there's very few places to hide. It's one of the reasons why we don't see that top floor all too often. So it's kind of surprising, really, for Santos to take us there inside of that round. It puts FURIA onto a match point here. Certainly coming up with more answers when it comes to dealing with these attacking rounds. I mean, you can just sort of look at the comparison there. And, you know, it's unfair to directly compare two teams, but just to see the different approaches and the different styles in the way that FURIA and Santos have both attacked. Even though there's no real requirements for getting things open on the side of FURIA when attacking into that site previously, into that top floor, they're still using that utility. They're still getting things open. They're still removing options away from Santos. And I think that that's something that Santos really struggled with on their attacks, was removing options away from FURIA.
6-2. Santos have to have 4 perfect rounds, Ollie. 4 perfect rounds, and have not shown us that at all today. Has been very disappointed from this side. On the other hand, FURIA, I think momentum again. They've just came in, they've done their job, they've done what they've needed to do. They haven't done anything fancy today, FURIA. They've just played Bite the way it's supposed to.
This is becoming more and more of a theme, isn't it? STK falling as that first blood. Fantasy being the dealer of death today.
Must be,
He's
what,
sitting
5, 6 opening deaths, maybe?
at 5 opening deaths.
I want to say 5.
Yeah, out of 6 deaths as well. Like, it's rough stuff, you know. Fancy's nearly sitting... Well, he's sitting at 11-3 currently. Miracle's gone for a little bit of a cheeky crouch walk. Not sure what it is about aces and crouch walking the way in, but he's going to be taken on out there, as that will damage Furia somewhat. You can just tell how much confidence they're working with, though, at this point, Demo. These guys are happy to challenge anything.
Yeah, more than happy to. The confidence is with them, obviously. Information is also going to be on the side of Santos. Those Echo drones, but you see Fantasy still working away, just crouch walking in, finding picks left, right, and center. Cons. Oh, I've heard a couple of taps and will eliminate Rare, but then quickly being traded off by Highs, and still Furia will lead 2 players to 3. Looking at where the remaining 2 are, one's going to be going aggressive on towards the main stairs. Fantasy tries his hand, but cannot find the angle. Hunter also loses a lot of HP. Rise is stuck in the site. So I think the pressure definitely ought to be on the side of Santos. A minute 15 to go with utility still on the side of Furia. Also, we have 2 nades in the back pocket that can be used by Highs. And with no denial, no ADSs, no WAMIs from Santos. A little bit of information from those zero cams mixed with the nades. It's going to be a free kill.
Couple of drones available as well for Furious. There's really the opportunity and the possibility for them to gather that info. They've also got the time in which to do so. They've got 50 seconds now to try and execute here. They're still going to be occupying that top floor, though we have seen a player drop into Tellers. Fantasy needs to be careful on the engagements that he takes here. And still, one Gumine could see him gone. Doesn't look too concerned as he's playing on the IQ. He's potentially cleared the area beforehand. Rise are going to be ready with a C4 prepped. Fancy going to be pushing his way on through. Highs is taking a ton of damage. Fancy still manages to find one over onto Hunter as he makes his way on through. Now pre-firing in onto Rise and has landed a couple of shots. Rise, he's going to choose to try and take this gunfight. He needs to try and hold on for 10 seconds here. The plant will start to go down. Rise, he finds the first, but he needs a couple more if he's going to try and make this a reality. Highs, the plant has been confirmed. He's allowed to rotate back on through. Nitro Cell already being used. Highs going to be holding it. Laid prone watching the rotate. Furia, they are going to take this map and this game of bank.
Zero cams being highlighted there. Also, Ollie, you've seen the yellow pings come in on the side of Furia, and then everything covered. They executed that final plant very, very well. I think Fantasy hit them in all the right positions. And Furia, yeah, as easy as it comes, 7-2. What we expect of this side of this caliber. But maybe a disappointing day from Santos where we expected more.
I think Santos really set themselves up last week for a bit of a big stage, and we were hoping that they'd really come out swinging here today. A game, a team that they really could have had a very good chance against. But I really don't. I don't think it's much deeper than the map pick Demo. Honestly, I think that Bank has potentially thrown Santos a little bit there, and that they've really fallen foul of a little bit of a lack of preparation, because we just saw Furia and they were so ready for this game today. They were on fire, and I think that's shown, from start to finish.
Yeah, I think you look at some of the rounds, the earlier rounds for Santos, whenever they were on the attack, Ollie. There was times where they just didn't know what to do. They didn't know where to go. And all credit to Furia. They had a plan today. They executed it well. I think their information today was on point. Information, I think, from Santos just wasn't there. I think that's a big key factor, was the information from both sides were night and day.
It really was. Chunks, get yourself back in here. Let's have a further discussion about our opening game here today, as we've kicked things off with a bit of a bang.
Yeah, we absolutely have. Look, Ollie, I think you mentioned when we first got into the game that it would be a hard map on attack. Obviously, Bank being pretty large, a lot of areas to clear, and it definitely feels like Santos suffered because of that. But you got to say, though, Ollie, when we got over to Furia's attacking half, they just stepped it up, and there was no stopping them. They just absolutely ran that game. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah, I think for all the trials and tribulations that the attackers face on Bank, Furia made them look like a bit of a non-entity. They just didn't exist for Furia, and I think that was in part, they used a lot of the utility very well. And Santos just didn't have a great day. STK, he got himself like 5-6 opening deaths. that's just not ideal, especially when you know the impact that this guy can have. You know, STK had a great game last week against NIP, but really struggled against FaZe. And I think that we've sort of seen both sides now, and he's a really key part of the team. And if he's not there performing, getting all those kills, then your team really is going to start to struggle. And I think Santos kind of showed themselves that today.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Sometimes you just have those players who the team can lean into, and when you're not able to do that, it's rough, isn't it? Like, Demo, look, we got to talk for a second about Miracle's play when he was down there on defense with the shotgun. How Santos, it felt like they kept trying to make a push, and every single time they did, he just held them back. What was going on there? How weren't they able to make it down those blue stairs?
It's a tough one. I think the basement, it has to be an instant win for defenders. I think if you're playing with a Thatcher and Habana ban, if you're not winning the basement, there's something definitely wrong with how you're playing that bomb site. And I think both teams today, they shown that they could hold that, very, very easily. There's no defenders losing on that basement. I think in terms of what we see in server stairs, you can open server hatch. There is just so much utility. ADS is placed everywhere. Shields being positioned. I think we have to come back to STK as well, because obviously keep in mind, Ollie, that he's getting first pick as the ace, and you need that hard breach. It's going to be very, very difficult. And just on the topic of STK, sure, that guy might have had great games last week, and he performed extremely well, but I've said it before, that means nothing unless you can repeat it day in, day out. And if Santos are getting themselves into a position where, he'll just show up, terrible, terrible mentality, because you can't rely on somebody having an incredible game. You need to have that consistency and win without somebody having a massive pop-off game. You need everyone having a pop-off game.
Yeah, it was a tricky one there for Santos, but FURIA definitely showing exactly how strong they ended up playing. I do believe we have an interview with one of the FURIA players, so let's get him in here and see how things went just there. Sorry, it's the coach for FURIA, my mistake. How did that one feel, though? It definitely went your guys' way with a really strong start over on that defensive half, and, well, you just carried it through after that.
Hello guys, good morning for all of you. It's me again, the only one that speaks English. So
it makes sense. Look, I gotta ask, that first half right there was just an absolute show from you guys. How's it feel, being on Bank, being on a map that maybe leans a bit more into defense? Were you confident that once you started out on defense, you kind of had it in the bag?
I believe that Bank, the way that is played right now, it's a very defensive map. They changed some little stuffs in the map that make the defenders stronger again. And on the meta that we have right now, it just make everything works better. So we were expecting a strong defensive side, and we were able to play very well on attack as well. So that's why we got the win today.
And Twister, something that I wanted to ask was, are you guys looking to, play a lot of Bank? Obviously, it's only just come into the pool, and already in week 2, you guys are bringing it out. Is that something that was a conscious decision from you just today, or is it something that you're looking to introduce into your map pool as a whole?
No, actually, I believe Bank it's a really good map. People here like to play it, so I believe it fitted really well on the consulate place. And we decided today to respect Santos because they had really good games on the last week. So we didn't try to pick a weaker map just to play against a weaker team, because we know that in Brazil, in BR6, all the teams can beat all the teams. So that's why we picked it today.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys showed exactly what you were made of. I have to ask, though, look, I was doing a bit of research coming into this one. Every time, at least the past 2 times now, you and Santos have come up against each other. You guys have come out on top. Did you feel like you needed to switch up anything with your game plan? Or were you able to just stick with what you were previously done and had such good success with?
Oh, I believe that the people here know how to play against Santos. Even right now that we didn't have some material to study about them, because Bankit was not played for both of teams, we would be able to win just playing our game that we were screaming and trying to and try to put on game. So we tried some cheesy bamps that we imagined that they could be using, like Hibana or Pulse, but after that it was just we playing our game.
Yeah, I mean, things worked really well for you. Twister, thank you so much for joining us. It was an amazing match to watch. I can't wait to hear from you again soon.
Thank you. Thanks to all the fans. And I just want to say that we are coming really strong for this season, and we want to reach the Elite 6 and the BR6 finals. So buy the FURIA skin and see you guys soon.
See you soon. Well, I'm sure if the performance carries on like this from FURIA, we will definitely be seeing them in the Elite 6. But that is it for game number 1 for the evening. We're going to take a very short break. We're going to be back in just a couple minutes, though, with game number 2. It's going to be an exciting one. Don't go anywhere.